My name is Ashley Blair, and I am a European settler. As I began this project, I started to look a little deeper into my family history. When talking with my grandparents, I discovered that my ancestors came from many different parts of the world. The most dominant places were Scotland, Ireland, Ukraine, and Germany. So, in other words, my grandparents grew up here in Canada, which tells me that somewhere down the line we were settlers. In fact, my Oma was born and raised in Fort Qu'Appelle her whole life. I've been there many times. However, it was only a few years ago when I had realized that that is where Treaty 4 was originally signed. It is such a significant marking, but no one really talks about it. Even throughout my elementary and high school experience, it wasn't overly talked about. We typically had some discussions each year about residential schools, but honestly, that was about the extent of my knowledge of Indigenous people until I started university. The past few years have been eye-opening for me. There is so much history that I was unaware of, but I'm continuously learning, growing, and expanding my knowledge of treaty education. Before this class, I was nervous to teach about treaty education, but after learning more in depth about treaties and my relation to them, I have realized that I shouldn't shy away and that it is important to talk about. I made this picture to represent the connection between the different cultures and my relation to treaties. I started with the land and the sky that represent the connection and relationship I have began to develop with the world around me. This land that I was born and raised on is Treaty 4, and that is important to acknowledge. The string I chose for each person was significant because both people had similar colors that were slightly different shades. This is to represent the differences yet similarities that we all share, no matter where we come from. The string for each person also went in a totally different direction and connected to different nails each time. This helps to show that no matter our differences, they're both human and deserve to be treated with the same respect. I then connected the people with a heart. I did this to represent the idea of treaties. We are connected through these sacred promises and we put our trust in one another. The idea behind this is that Indigenous people put their livelihood in the hands of the Europeans and it was thought to be reciprocated through the treaties. However, as we know, that is not exactly what had happened. This entire picture is to resemble how my learning throughout this course had developed and deepened my understanding of the history of treaty education. My relation to treaty is that I am a European settler, but I am a treaty person. My ancestors were one part of the treaty, which means I am as well. It is now our responsibility to try and repair the damage that was done by my ancestors. We can never go back in time, but we can do our part to try and make up for what has been done so it will never happen in the future again. For the future, I plan to continue learning and developing my understanding of treaty education. I want to give my students the knowledge I was not given. It is not enough to just acknowledge it anymore. We need to take a step further and take responsibility for our actions. Our future leaders need to be aware of our past cultural history so that they can continue our journey to healing for the next generation. This picture shows how it was at the beginning, before the sacred promises were broken and our lives were changed forever. This is how it should have been. We are all one. We are all treaty people. I am a treaty person.